Hello everyone, my name is Thomas Aaron and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm an extremely big NASCAR fan and extremely passionate about the sport. And here I will be giving different opinion videos and race reviews from the previous weeks and retrospectives and just a different viewpoint on the sport. But this channel will not only be just NASCAR, I'm also really into video games. I have a gaming PC and I play a lot with my friends. So I will be uploading different video game content as well as the NASCAR stuff. And I will soon have an iRacing set up, so I'll be streaming, doing iRacing and uploading videos on that. I'm pretty into shooters, so you can expect that. But for this video, we will be going over the Kansas race from last weekend. So this was race number 12 of the 2019 NASCAR season, and it was the fourth race on a 1.5-mile track with the new package. Full disclosure, I did not like the idea of this package at all. I wasn't a big fan of the idea of lower horsepower. I'm definitely on the side of higher horsepower and lower downforce when it comes to NASCAR racing and stock cars in general. I just think it produces better racing, but that discussion's for a later video. Here we're just looking at the Kansas race and seeing how this package performed. And honestly, NASCAR got what they wanted. They really did. You couldn't really ask for much more in a 1.5-mile race. I would say this is by far the best race of the season, besides Talladega. But Talladega is a completely different animal and on its own. And but when it comes to a 1.5-mile track, this package was had everything, and it's definitely an improvement from Kansas of last year. And it's the best 1.5-mile race I think we've seen since Chicago of last year, between Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch. I really do think that this is the type of racing NASCAR was hoping would be at every single 1.5-mile track. And we've seen at some of the other tracks that it actually, in my opinion, has kind of hurt the racing. But here is the I feel like this is the picture of the racing that they thought would or hoped would produce throughout the entire schedule, or at least on the 1.5-mile tracks and intermediate tracks. However, I really do believe that everything kind of came into place perfectly here, because for one, it was a Saturday night race and it was unusually chilly for a May Kansas race. So this package seems to lead itself to produce its best racing when you have the most grip and the least tire fall off, producing the most power they can, and being able to build those runs down the straightaways. At a track, say like Atlanta, even though it was cool, it was during the sun, the day, and it's on an old surface, so it just wore the tires out regardless. So the runs weren't able to be built up, and everyone got strung out, and it was just a normal 1.5-mile race after that. So back to Kansas. So this year's race was just across the board objectively better than last year's, regardless of how you feel about the package. And the stats don't lie. Last year only saw 13 lead changes compared to this year's 23 lead changes. And during the first stage, we saw a competition caution at lap 30. Pretty much at the beginning, Harvick just took off and just led the whole thing until the competition caution at lap 30. I don't see why there was a competition caution. NASCAR's gonna say that it was because of rain, but there wasn't even that much rain. There was like a sprinkle or a small shower during the day or even during the evening the night before, but it didn't wash all the rubber off the track. So it's obvious that NASCAR just wants to throw cautions in whenever they can, and it's just blatantly obvious. But again, that's a completely different topic. So after that competition caution, everybody came down, and some people got 2 tires, and specifically Harvick got 4 tires. So he restarted around the 10th place spot, kind of in the upper top of the top 10. And I was really curious to see if he'd be able to make his way back up, because he was clearly the best car at the beginning of the race. And sure enough, he just split everyone down the middle. Went from, I don't know exactly where he restarted, like I said, around the 10th place, and within one corner he was running 4th or 5th. And this kind of wasn't a fluke. He did this on the next restart after the first legitimate caution with Denny Hamlin's spin, and he came right back up through the pack and eventually took the lead again. So that was a really good sign for this package. He was actually able to pass. The aero did come into play. The outside was definitely dominant, but it was good to see the best car be able to come up through the pack. So once Harvick takes the lead, he just sets sail, and then it just becomes your typical 1.5 mile race, and he sets sail and wins stage 1. So stage 2 goes green all the way. All 75 laps are green throughout the whole thing, but it does get pretty interesting, and Kevin Harvick leads a lot of stage 2. But during green flag pit stops, Chase Elliott was actually able to catch and pass him before the green flag pit stop cycled around. So once they cycled back around, Chase Elliott was the leader, and he wins stage 2. So stage 3 is where things get really interesting. The sun goes down, the temperatures cool down, and the racing dramatically ramps up, especially at the front of the field, and specifically the battle for the lead. However, Harvick does have an issue. I believe he thought he had a flat tire and came in, but really it was just he just had I think a windshield tear off on the front of his car. So he had to come in during green flag, and that essentially took him out of competition for the win. He would get his lap back later, but we would really never see him up front for the rest of the evening after that. So coming down to the final part of the race, we saw Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, and surprisingly Ricky Stenhouse Jr. all just dueling it out for the win. Specifically, it was great to see the show that Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott were putting on. And I gotta say, man, that guy in that 88 car, Alex, he's really starting to come into his own. Actually, for the first time in history, this has never happened before. He's finished second place 3 times in a row, and I believe he's the first one to ever do that hasn't won a race before. But with the lower temperatures and the runs that these cars were creating down the straightaways, we were just seeing blocking everywhere, and people just trying to block runs and forming runs and just making just ballsy moves. Specifically Kyle Busch. I mean, is that really a surprise to anyone that Kyle Busch is making aggressive moves near the end of the race? But he ended up getting into trouble with, I believe he got into Clint Boyer, and he had a tire rub, and that took him out of contention, and that was like within like 10 laps to go. So there was a late caution for Ryan Blaney, who blew a tire and just started throwing stuff all over the racetrack. But for some reason, and it was blatantly obvious on TV that he was throwing things all over the track, NASCAR decided to wait for a caution for like 10 seconds. It just, I don't understand why they throw a caution for someone spinning out, like not even spinning out. I was at Martinsville and William Byron got like, he just got sideways and they threw a caution. But you have someone like Ryan Blaney throwing stuff all over the damn racetrack, and they just wait to throw out a caution. And same thing with Talladega, but Talladega is just a completely different debate on the last lap of that race. This was just during the race, and like I said, I just don't understand it. There should have been a caution. There 100% should have been a caution, but if they're really erring on the side of safety, which they always claim to be, you would think they'd throw that immediately, especially when the TV is actually picking up the debris for once. So that sets up a scenario of some people coming in and getting 4 tires, and some people like Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, they stay out on their old tires. And at the time, I really thought this was the winning move, because I mean, we don't really have crew chief data. It's hard for us to tell what the tire wear is, just being a fan at home. But it really looked like they weren't falling off that much, especially with the cooler temperatures. However, Brad Keselowski came right up, and by the end of near the end, he was able to get on the high side of Alex Bowman, and from that point, that's all she wrote. But I gotta say, Alex did an amazing job of holding off Brad for as long as he did. I was really pulling for Alex, and mainly because I really love seeing first-time winners, but I have a really big feeling that he's gonna get his first win really soon. And it's pretty good to see the Hendrick Motorsports stable as a whole improving. I think it's blatantly obvious that they are improving, with Chase Elliott winning at Talladega and just running up front in general. But usually Chase Elliott has been the best car in the past few years. But I think it says something that that 88 car is running up front as well and contending for wins. Even Jimmy Johnson is running within the top 10, but I just don't think they have been able to put together the entire package for that. And same with the 24, they've been running in the top 10 and running well as good as well. So I think the Hendrick stable and the Chevys in general are on the upswing finally. So once Brad Keselowski gets past Alex Bowman, he pretty much cruises to victory despite there being a green-white checkered finish. At the end, there was one more caution, I believe, for the 95 car. Yeah, there was some really good battling, and for second place for this green-white checkered, but there was no getting past Brad at that point. So this is Brad Keselowski's 3rd win of the season. So that Penske stable is running on all 8 cylinders, and they're a force to be reckoned with, along with Joe Gibbs. I actually think they look stronger than Joe Gibbs at this very moment. So overall, Kansas, the spring race at Kansas this year was actually extremely entertaining, especially for a Kansas race, especially for a mile-and-a-half race in general. Kind of had everything: passes for the lead, side-by-side racing. It even had some pit strategy mixed here and there. I would definitely give this race like a B+. It kind of got stale, you know, before the sun went down. But I mean, 400-mile race, the entire thing can't be amazing. So, but I think the package worked here very well. So that's my first video on my new YouTube account and my first ever race review. So I would really like some feedback if you made it this far, and if you did make it this far and you enjoy what you're seeing, give a like. If you didn't, give a dislike, and subscribe for future NASCAR content. Like I said, I would really appreciate some feedback. Hopefully these videos get better in the future. I will be at the All-Star race this weekend. And I'll be at the 600. And for the 600, I actually have a garage credential, so hopefully I can get some pretty good shots from that. But until next time, this has been Thomas Aaron. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Also, yes, I am aware I put my glasses on halfway through the recording. Yeah.